I'm Rabbi Jay Karzan.
And I'm Rabbanit Ruby Ray Karzan.
And Tape with Rabbi Doug is next.
We're going to see Rabbi Doug. We're going to see Rabbi Doug. We're going to see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug. Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're going to see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about Doug.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. Glad you could be with us today. My guests today, returning guests, are Noam Arnon and David Wilder from the city of Hebron in Israel. They are here in Chicago once again talking about the city, the community of the Jewish people in Hebron, and the holy sites in Hebron, which so importantly need to be protected and preserved and watched over. And I want to welcome you both, Bruchim Habayim, once again to Chicago. As we met with each other approximately 4 years ago, we talked about Hebron as a city that was beginning to grow, about redeeming Jewish land in Hebron, and about security issues between the split of Hebron. I guess it's called A and B, section A and B of Hebron. So what I want to start with, and if Noam, I can start with you since you're next to me this time. Tell me, is that split of Hebron between the, I don't know if you call it the Palestinian-controlled section and the Jewish-controlled section of Hebron, still a point of safety issue for the Jewish people in that neighborhood, in that area?
I can tell you that Hebron today is actually divided. The city is divided between the Jewish section and the Arab section. Now, Jews are not allowed to go and to visit and to be in the Arab section. And the Arab who live in the Jewish section, they are allowed to come to their homes and to go back and forth. So this situation gives us a lot of safety and security than it has been before. I would like to remind you that we didn't like the whole idea of dividing the city. We would like to see the city united and free access to anyone to go to any street he wants.
But wouldn't that cause a security issue for the Jewish people on their side of Hebron that they live?
After it has been done, after the city was divided, I can tell you that the Jewish zone and the Jewish community of Hebron is much more safe and secure than it was been before. And today people can come and visit in the Jewish sites in free access day and night without any limitation, and it's totally free and secure, and people are invited to come and visit.
Now, as we learned last time, the two of you were on the show, Noam, you are pretty much the media mogul for Israel from the city of Hebron, and David, you are the media mogul for outside of Israel for the city of Hebron, and I read a lot of the emails that you send me, many, and I read a lot about this location. People were ejected from their homes. This location, the courts have said that this person cannot live there anymore, and this location has been bought by a Jewish person, but they're not accepting the deed. There's a question of the deed. Is this still going on a daily basis in Hebron with different properties?
Unfortunately, yes. The Israeli government and the Israeli left are trying to prevent the community from growing. There are many people that want to come and live in Hebron. There are people that are willing to purchase property in Hebron. And there are those who want to keep us. There are those who don't want us there at all. And if we're already there, they don't want us to grow and expand and develop. So that even when we purchase property legally, which we have done numerous times, there are attempts made by elements within the government and the administration to try to have us expelled. This has happened last summer when we were in the Shalhevet neighborhood, which used to be the old Arab market. It's all Jewish property. It's proven Jewish property. The courts understand it's Jewish property, but they refused to allow us to live there. We moved into a new building a year ago, Beit HaShalom, 40,000 square 400-foot building.
Which, by the way, is the subject of Yossi Bammel's article here on the top of Hebron today, which...
This is actually my son-in-law. I have a daughter and my son-in-law, and they have 3 children that live there. And the government has been trying to expel them from their home.
Now, we talked about this 4 years ago also, and that was my very first trip to Hebron. It was back in 1980, and Beit Hadassah was a place where people were, living and staying, but it wasn't a home. It was an empty building. It was a vacant building, and they were, just stowing away in there to claim it as Jewish property. And it turned into, as you mentioned, a beautiful apartment building and place to live. Are these places, such as Beit HaShalom, is the plan to turn them into beautiful apartment buildings like Beit Hadassah was? And is that the plan with all of these big buildings that are being reclaimed by the Jewish community? No?
Absolutely, yes. We would like to see the city as nice as it can be, to build beautiful buildings there. And I think people who come to visit in the Jewish zone of Hebron can testify that many buildings have beautiful places there, like Beit Hadassah that you mentioned, and the other buildings like the Avraham Avinu Synagogue in the middle of the ancient Jewish quarter in Hebron is a beautiful place. It was renovated and rebuilt, and today is a beautiful synagogue there. And besides that, there is an ancient synagogue of the Lubavitch community. It's again a beautiful place. We try to make the city for all the Jews in the world and for all people of the world who feel connection to Bible. Maybe people can see us, non-Jews alike, and they want to tell you, you're all welcome. The city of the fathers, the forefathers and foremothers, belongs to all the people who believe in the Bible, in the message of Abraham, and we would like to see them all coming and visiting and supporting. This is the place, the cradle of civilization. So this is how we want to build the city.
You brought up, and of course this is the main tourist stay and the main holy place of Hebron is the Marat HaMachpelah, the cave of Machpelah, where, according to tradition, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah are all buried. Now, there's a mosque within and a synagogue within, and I know that I've read in many articles, again, David, that the Jews were told they couldn't come in at this time, They were allowed back in, now they're not allowed back in at this time. Is there a regular daily minyan or a regular Shabbat minyan going on in the Marat HaMachpelah? And are there daily visits from tourists from the Jewish community around the world that in a safe manner? Do they feel safe? And are they going to the Marat HaMachpelah on a regular basis?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you that there are close to 500,000 people every year who come to visit the tomb of the Patriarchs, Marat HaMachpelah. There are people there every day. There are prayer minions there beginning early in the morning to late at night. There are people that study Torah there. There are different Torah study groups that are there, again, from very, very early in the morning through very, very late at night.
And the mosque is in use 5 times a day too?
Look, it's very important to point out that the tomb of the Patriarchs, Marat HaMachpelah, was closed off to the Jews for 700 years because we were told that it was a mosque and only Muslims could pray there. However, and that, of course, that claim they still hold. We're told that today, if they should ever control that site again, they won't let us pray there because they say it's a mosque. The building on top of the actual caves was built 2,000 years ago by Herod, who was king of Judea. He was a Jew. That was, according to very simple calculation, 600 years before Muhammad was born. Okay? So when we want to talk about a mosque and a synagogue and who is... we can also, of course, go back to the Bible when we read about how Avraham Avinu, the patriarch Abraham, purchased this site for 400 silver shekels. A professor today has told us, following a very, very intense study of the issue, that in today's value is $750,000. Okay, so we're going back almost 4,000 years. We believe that anybody that wants to be able to visit such a site and worship at such a site should be able to freely. That's the basic human value of freedom of worship. Anybody who wants to be able to pray should be able to pray. Our neighbors believe otherwise, that only they should be able to pray. Today, unfortunately, the building has been broken down into two parts. The Muslims control about 80% of the building. We have access to about 20% of the building. 10 days a year we get the entire structure and it's closed to them. 10 days a year they get the whole thing and it's closed to us, which sounds fair until you remember that they wouldn't let us in for 700 years. We believe it should be open to everybody all the time. They believe it should only be open to them all the time. But with that being said, there are literally hundreds of thousands of people who come and visit and pray, identify, just experience the wonder of being in a 2,000-year-old building at the site of the tombs of the founders, not only of Judaism, but of all of monotheism.
Absolutely agreed. It really is, what you say just seems to make sense, and unfortunately it doesn't work the way that we think things should make sense all the time. But it's Hashem soon. But here's something that I think is so interesting, and one of my viewers, when they heard you were going to be on, dropped me an email and said, could you ask Noam to tell us about he and the two other people that actually had the zechut to enter, the honor and privilege to enter into the actual cave of Machpelah. Noam, could you tell us a little bit about that? What was it like and how did you end up doing it? Because people are aware that you did it, but they don't know about it.
Well, it's really was a special experience, knowing this is the place that was a secret and mysterious for so many hundreds or thousands of years. You know, according to the Kabbalah, the Jewish mystics, it's the entrance of paradise, of heaven, of Gan Eden. And many, many years people did not go in, and those who went in, as the stories tell us, could not get out alive. So we had to wait for a special opportunity. Now, after the 6-day war, when the whole area was liberated and the Jews returned to Hebron, somehow the Arabs, the Muslims, still have control on the building, and they prevented us and prevented anyone from research, so no archaeologist could enter the place. So we had to wait for a special opportunity, and it was in the night of a special midnight prayer called Sliches. Many viewers can know what they say, the Slichot, special midnight prayers before the new year to come. And at the middle of the night, praying there very loudly, we had some tools with us, some chisels, some hammers, and we broke into the underground level, and we have crawled through a very long tunnel, dark tunnel. You can't even imagine what sort of experience we had crawling inside, and then we saw there an underground cistern that is there under the building. And looking around in this underground room, we looked for an entrance to a cave. And then in one of the corners of that room, we had some candles. We felt that the candle is moving. The light is moving. So we understood that there is a wind, airflow from the bottom of the cave. So we had to dig again into somewhere inside, and then we discovered the cave, which is exactly as the Bible says, a double cave, Me'arat Machpelah, which means in Hebrew double. It means two caves, one after the other, and we crawled in. Now the caves, the type of the caves is typical to what is called Middle Bronze Age graves. So it's very, very similar to the age of the Patriarchs. Now we crawled in the second cave. I found myself crawling amongst bones that were spread around. You can imagine what sort of feeling I could have crawling midnight into a cave, a mysterious place, a gate to the heaven, and then crawling between bones and feeling I was quite sure that I'm not going to get out from that place. But the energy I got there, the energy I felt there was so special. Now, we felt the time was moving so fast, something that we could feel like a few minutes. It took a few hours. And after praying there, we were told that time is over. Sunrise is very soon. You have to get out. So we get out. We crawled out from the caves, through the tunnel, through the entrance, and we put again this stone. And later on, it was covered, so anyone could enter again to this place. So it was really a great experience and a great privilege we had. And we thank God for this opportunity to discover the caves, not for us, but for the Jewish people that somehow by this visit reunited with the connection to their fathers and mothers.
So for generations after the patriarchs and matriarchs, people did use the cave as burial places, obviously.
It was there in the first Israeli kingdom period. The pieces of pottery that we found there belong to the Israeli first kingdom, to the kingdom of Judea. So now we know that Jews did know the place and put inside some tools and some bones. So it gives us a hint to the biblical period.
How amazing. I am here with Noam Arnon. What an amazing story. With David Wilder, spokesman for the city of Hebron and the Hebron Fund. And we're on Taped with Rabbi Doug, and we're going to be right back. Stay with us.
And you're watching Tape with Rabbi Doug.
Welcome back. I'm here with Noam Arnon and David Wilder from the city of Hebron in Israel. They are the spokesmen for the media and for the Jewish community of Hebron. And I just can't tell you how interesting the whole history of Hebron is to someone who isn't a biblical scholar, and for someone who has been to Israel and actually been to Hebron. The feeling of being in such a holy place is something that lasts with you. It's like going to the Kotel for the first time is no different than the feeling of walking through Hebron and walking up to the Marat HaMachpelah the first time. The aura of holiness just encompasses your whole soul, and it stays with you. And I encourage those people out there who've never been there, to make that trip, because there's nothing like it. Now, I remember when I was in Hebron years ago, there was stone throwing going on and things like that on the streets. Is that pretty much alleviated because of the security being tighter now, David?
There's very, very heavy security. The Army works very, very hard to try to ensure safety of everybody who lives in Hebron, everybody who comes to visit in Hebron. The Army also does much work to try to prevent terrorists from leaving the Arab side of Hebron today to perpetrate terror attacks throughout the country. There are attempts made by the Arabs to inflict damage upon people, but for the most part, thank God, things are safe. There's also a tremendous amount of divine assistance, and that, together with the work the Army does, people can feel assured. They can come and visit Hebron. There are many, many tours of Hebron. People can visit and see us also virtually on an internet site, which people will be able to see.
We'll put the website at the end of the show.
At the end of the show, but as I said, we literally have tens of thousands of people who come on our tours, and we invite everybody to come and experience it in person.
Let's take a look at Hebron right now, and we'll be right back.
Down through the ages, even in the most difficult of times, there were those who believed, and they were the ones who wrote the glorious chapters in our people's history. When Avraham Avinu made his stand against a worldwide pagan civilization, no one believed in him. He was called Ha'ivri, the outsider. The people of his time thought he was deranged, but it was he who destroyed his father's idols and went on to bring the belief in one God to an entire world. When Avraham Avinu received the mission statement for the Jewish nation and set out for the Holy Land, no one believed he would become the father of many nations. Go forth to the place I will show you, and I will make you into a great nation, and all the nations will be blessed by you. Scorning the wealth and prestige his family enjoyed in the most developed civilization of his time, he followed his heart and conviction to build the nation that would transform history. When Avraham Avinu stood at the gates of Hebron and haggled with Ephron, no one dreamed he would best the princes of Chayat and secure the purchase of the cave of Machpelah for the Jewish people. He was offered the property for free, but he knew that all the future generations seeking to stake their claim to the land of Israel would look back to him as their example. He made a point of paying the price necessary to secure a Jewish homeland. When Caleb and Yoshua faced a Jewish leadership that rejected the land of Israel, no one could have believed that these two heroic voices could turn the tide. They knew that in order to avert the evil decree, they must go up to pray in Hebron and be inspired by Hebron's holy tradition of fortitude and strength. When King David was no more than a shepherd boy, no one believed he would be anointed as king. No one thought that from his initial headquarters in Hebron, such a delicate poet and scholar could find the courage to forge a monarchy of steel and blood. When the Second Temple was destroyed nearly 2,000 years ago, and the Jewish people were scattered to the four corners of the earth, no one believed that they would ever find their way home. Despite the Crusades, the Inquisition, the pogroms, the blood libels, the Arab revolts, and even the Holocaust, we outlived all our enemies to make our glorious comeback and renew the Jewish Commonwealth in 1948. When the Arab aggressors massed their troops on our borders in 1967, did anyone believe we could survive? Did anyone think we wouldn't be pushed into the sea? Did anyone dream that within days the cradle of our birthright would be returned to us? That the Jewish people's holiest sites located in Judea and Samaria, Jerusalem, and Hebron would be ours? When the Jews of Hebron were murdered and robbed of their homes in 1929, did anyone think they would be back? When Avraham Franco, clutching an ancient Torah scroll his family had brought to Hebron back in the 16th century, swore to the British policeman who had evacuated him in 1929 that he would return someday, could anyone have imagined that in 1983 he would dance into the newly renovated Avraham Avinu synagogue with that same Sefer Torah? When Rabbi Levinger and a handful of determined families spent that first Passover at the Park Hotel, did anyone believe that they would persevere? That their love and dedication for our founding fathers and mothers would overcome all the doubts and all the cynics? That their tenacious hold on the land would give birth not only to the twin communities of Kiryat Arba and Hebron, but also to 15 additional communities in the Hebron Hills. In a blind effort to cut the umbilical cord to our heritage and tradition, the evacuation of Hebron has been proposed again and again at almost every opportunity. The struggle has seen hypocrisy reach new lows when a purported concern for the archaeology of Hebron held up the construction of Beit Menachem in the courts for 6 years. Or when the supposed concern for the welfare of the Jewish residents was touted as an excuse to push for evacuation after the murder of Shalhevet Pas. When the Second Intifada broke out, who could have believed that it would be the Arabs who would run? Who could have imagined that while 30,000 Arabs abandoned downtown Hebron, the Jewish community would double in size? Who could have foreseen the restoration of Jewish property in Hebron again and again, whether by new purchases or by legal action? From the dawn of time until today's headlines, Hebron has stood for emunah, conviction and dedication to Eretz Yisrael. Today, when a lost and confused Israeli leadership must confront the rise of radical Islam, a genocidal nuclear threat from Iran, the ongoing missile terror of Hezbollah and Hamas, where will our people turn to? They can only turn to those who have been dedicated to their tradition, strong in their convictions, determined in their actions. They will turn to the same wellsprings of hope and emunah they have always had to turn to. They will turn to us because despite all the obstacles, we continue to believe. We have always believed in our goals. You have always believed in us. It's your support that turns our dreams into realities. In recent years, Beit Menachem was completed and inhabited. Beit Zachariah was purchased, renovated, and inhabited. Beit Shapira was purchased, and Israeli papers that called the action illegal paid cash in court for their libelous slander. Other major purchases have been completed and are waiting for a propitious opportunity to be inhabited. Tourism in Hebron, music festivals, and visits to the Machpelah Cave in Hebron continue to grow by leaps and bounds. During this past Sukkot holiday alone, over 100,000 Jews came to celebrate and visit in Hebron. The lesson of Hebron echoes and rings down through the ages. Belief and conviction will always persevere.
We will see Hebron grow with new buildings, new families, 100,000 people coming to visit Hebron. And Be'ezrat Hashem, all together, we will be one family together with our Avot, Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel veLeah.
Even though we were thrown out from our house twice, we know we live in the place where the Avot are, and we hope to see all Hebron Jewish city.
The same Kedusha that radiated from Marat Machpelah back in the days of Yaakov and Yosef, that Kedusha still radiates today. And that's what gives us the strength and everything that we need to be able to deal with all of the problems we have here in Hebron. But we know that we'll overcome those problems, just as Yosef did, and just as the Jewish people have for the last 2,000 years.
I think the deep idea of Hebron is not giving up, but to fight and to be strong, to continue the eternal nation of Hebron. You know, the Jewish community of Hebron have gone through such tough times, but the Jews never gave up. They returned to make sure that the idea of Hebron, the strength of Hebron, the spirit of Hebron must continue. And this is the spirit of the Jewish community of Hebron today. Hebron me'az u'letamiד.
Welcome back. Tell me, we're just have a moment left. How many Jewish people are living in the actual city of Hebron right now?
It's about 850 Jews living in Hebron, including the yeshiva boys, and we are willing to grow.
And how many in the outskirts in Kiryat Arba, on the outskirts of Hebron?
About 7,000.
Wow. Well, I wish you both much success in your endeavors to help us learn more about Hebron and to help the cause, as we say, for the continued success of the city, this very holy city. Noam Arnon, David Wilder, thank you both for coming to Chicago. Remember, check out our website, www.tvrabbi.com, and you can watch our show on the web there. If you want to send these guys an email, you can email them directly or email me at info@tvrabbi.com, and I will forward it on to them. I want to thank you again, Noam and David, for being with us. I want to thank you for being with us. Remember, on every week at this time. Hope to see you next time right here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom.
Sheba Shamayim.